So we first discovered that she had a heart defect when I was about 32 weeks pregnant, and we were referred to St. Louis to get some opinions from the doctors up there. So we saw a fetal specialist at St. Louis Children's Hospital, and then I want to say it was about 2 weeks later, I was 34 weeks pregnant, and I went into preterm labor. And so Ellie and I got to take our first airplane ride, and so we were air evac'd to St. Louis to Barnes, and I was on bed rest at Barnes for about a month until she was born. And they knew she was going to have a heart defect, so when she was born there was a whole lot of doctors in the room, and they were kind of prepared for anything. And she went straight to the NICU at St. Louis Children's Hospital after she was born, and they did a lot of diagnostic testing and made a plan for her heart surgeries, and we thought we were going to get to go home. And then she had a code blue, is what they call it. It was a respiratory arrest in the NICU right before we were going home. So she was transferred to the cardiac unit, and we were there, I'd say it was about 3 months after that. So it was about 4 months total when we were, just kind of thrown into this. So, it was a lot right from the very beginning, and it just kind of kept progressing. She had 3 open heart surgeries. So she had one every year. So one when she was 1, one when she was 2, and another when she was 3. She was born with it's a chromosome deletion, and it's called 22q11.2 deletion, or some people just call it DeGeorge syndrome. So that's what caused the heart defect. She was also born with a cleft palate, and she has adrenal insufficiency and some other issues that are all related to this chromosome deletion. And so she was born without pulmonary arteries, which are the arteries that go from your heart and carry blood to your lungs. And so the body compensated for that by sort of sprouting these little blood vessels off of her aorta, and they were just everywhere, and they're just these little tiny blood vessels all throughout her lungs and pretty much throughout her whole body to try to oxygenate her blood. So it's really abnormal structure. It's not what nothing looked like it was supposed to, which is why the heart surgeries were so complicated, and why eventually they didn't work, and they led to what's called pulmonary hypertension, which is high blood pressure in the lungs, which then led to heart failure. And in her case, it was really severe heart failure. And so Ellie was pretty sick. So she was pretty close to the top, but they still thought that it was going to be about a 9-month wait. And thankfully, we only waited 4 weeks, and she was very sick. She probably only had a few weeks left, and we call it our miracle. And it was exactly 4 weeks. It was 1 month to the day when we got organs, and it was just in time. And we don't know anything about the donor except that they're amazing and they saved her life, and hopefully someday we'll get the chance to meet them and tell them how much we owe them.
Trying to keep it together, pretty much. It was a lot of hard days, and I tried to not take it too seriously, even though it's obviously very serious. But somebody had to be there to kind of pull away from reality, I guess, and just kind of like the comic relief, if you will. It was just, I joke with the doctors and the nurses, and it was more or less my escape from the reality of the situation and how upsetting it was. And I just couldn't feel sorry for myself all the time. And I was trying to be there for Ellie and for Callie, and she was trying to be there for me, and we sometimes it was.
You don't want Ellie to feel sad, which is really hard when it's sad. I mean, it's the saddest time you've ever been through, and yet you don't want her to pick up on that. And so he was really good at that. It just, making sure everyone was smiling, and if it was going to be Ellie's last day, we were going to be laughing and smiling, even though we were completely heartbroken.
We understood what was going on, and we kind of accepted it before that it was going to happen. you know, at that point, before we had, you know, gotten our organs and the transplant and everything like that, we had pretty much accepted the inevitable. And I think that was the hardest part of it. It was just trying to stay positive, knowing that your kid's not going to make it. You know, you're just waiting for the day, essentially. And that was the hardest part, I think.
Enjoy.
But, you know, she's a little miracle kid. She just, you know, on the one day we were absolutely like losing hope. It was just that night we got our organs. So it was just it was just crazy. And it all happened so fast from there.
Yeah. And we'd come through all these awful days when we thought she wasn't going to make it. And we'd gotten on the transplant list. And then for them to say they thought she should come off of it, we were just devastated. And that was our mindset when we got the call for organs. You know, I actually thought
it was the official call.
I thought that they
to tell
were
us we
calling.
were taking off the
I thought they were calling to say, like, we're taking Ellie off the list, and instead they were calling to say we got organs, and so it was just. Like, I mean, the emotions are just like, wow. So we lived in St. Louis for about, it ended up being 8 months total. So we were living in the Ronald McDonald House, and immediately after the transplant is a pretty critical time. That's why heart-lung transplants are so rare, is because it's a pretty tough recovery. The amazing part of it was actually that almost immediately we could tell that she felt better. She had been so sick, and she woke up out of surgery, and she was supposed to be sedated, but she woke up and opened her eyes and kind of smiled, and she was pink.
She waved at everybody.
She waved and said she wanted water. I mean, it was amazing. We could just tell she felt probably better than she'd ever felt in her whole life. And this is, you know, hours post-op. We saw a couple of our friends had photo shoots on Angel's Wings, and it was after Ellie's first heart surgery, and you know, we hadn't had any professional photos taken of her, and you know, you really do miss out on a lot of the normal kind of things, and that starts right away. You know, we live kind of in a time where everybody gets pictures of all these milestones, and especially, you know, you have a new baby born and you get photos taken of your newborn, and when you're living in a hospital and you're in the NICU, you know, you almost immediately start to feel pretty isolated. Like, that's them, you know, them and then us. You know, this is our life. We live in the hospital. They're getting photos taken, you know, and it can be really, really hard. And just right from the beginning, it feels pretty isolating. And then with something like on Angel's Wings, you know, it not only do you get these beautiful photographs, but then you get to have those special things, those normal things that everyone else does, where you're proud of your family and you're putting it on Facebook, and you're kind of showing everyone that, like, here we are, this is our life, this is our normal, you know, and it's pretty special, and I think that it helps people understand what our life is like, which is something I struggle with pretty often, is trying to put into words what the day-to-day is like. But if you have these visual representations of this is it, you know, this is hospital life, you know, this isn't just for the photo shoot, this is what we live, and so to be able to show that to people is really important, and it's really special, and it makes you feel like your story matters, and that, you know, even though your milestones are different, they're still really important. You know, you may not be going on vacations, but it's still worth celebrating, you know, like every surgery, every day, really, you know, every day. So it's been been really special to have just all these photographs that show our journey from the beginning all the way through until now. So they really understand kind of what you're going through, not just when you're in the hospital. You know, everyone understands it's tough when you're in the hospital. Not everyone understands that it's tough when you're at home as well, you know, and so anytime we get a little package in the mail from On Angel's Wings, it just says, like, we're thinking of you, and you know, they remember all the little special anniversaries and things like that, and it really makes you feel important and like someone cares, and yeah, we just love them. It's hard to, like I said earlier, it's hard to put those feelings into words. I mean, how do you explain what it feels like when you think it's your last hours with your child, you know? And all you want to do is make time stop, I think. You know, you just want one more moment, whether it's a good moment or a bad moment. You just want time to stop, you know, and you just want to hold your baby forever. And that's what those pictures show to me. It's like, 'cause that's what a picture is, you know? It's like a moment stopped in time of
And this is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that want to talk about children with terminal illnesses. It's not a pretty subject that a lot of people are willing to. They don't want to go there very often, you know. It's just not pleasant to talk about. But yet, when you've been touched by it, to me, you can't go back in a way. You know, it just changes you as a person, and so you start to seek out other people that kind of understand it, that understand who you are and what your purpose. It just gives you a purpose, I guess, you know. And so the photographs are sort of just the tip of the iceberg for On Angel's Wings. You know, what it really is about is it's about grief and it's about hope, and there are so many different kinds of grief. You know, there's losing a child, there's getting a diagnosis, there's, you know, anticipatory grief, which is where you get a terminal diagnosis and you know it's coming, and you feel this pressure of every day might be the last, you know, and so when we have these events through On Angel's Wings, it is like a family, because we're all going through some form of grief for a child, which is, it's different than any other kind of grief. It just really is. It's not the same as losing a parent or a grandparent or a friend. It is unique in that way. And, you know, for us, what we get out of it is we see that life goes on. You know, we see these families that have been through, I mean, I can't even imagine, but they're there and they show up and they release butterflies and they talk about their kids, and oh man, sorry. But you know, it just gives you hope that sometimes it looks like a black hole in the future, you know, and to see people getting through it and still smiling and still laughing and having these events and making memories, and it just makes you feel like you can get through it, you know, like kind of if they can get through it, I can get through it kind of thing. And, you know, to reach out right from the beginning. If I had any regrets, it's that, you know, I wish I'd met Michelle when I was pregnant, you know, so that we could have gone through this entire journey together rather than starting a year in. But, you know, find your community, find your support, and whether it's On Angel's Wings or somewhere else, you have to find your people, and you have to find a way to make this your new normal and to be okay with that. You know, you look on social media and you see all these families with these, like, you know, professional photos, and you just think, can anyone really be that happy? Like, is that real? You know? But then, you know, when you're in the moment, it really is real, you know? Like, you can see all the love in those pictures, and it's really a special thing to have those memories, isn't it? I know you dropped yours.
I think more or less for me, it's been, it's kind of, this situation has made me appreciate the little things a lot more, and what's important and what's not important. And, you know, like, normal problems that I used to have really aren't problems.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's so unnecessary to, you know, wax over childish things when so much more is important.